Good evening, and welcome to the 8th Annual ICAM Candidates Forum. I'm Russ Barsley, your host, and tonight we'll be talking with Ipswich candidates for Moderator, Board of Selectmen, and School Committee. The format is going to be quite simple. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, followed by 2 minutes to answer each question directed to them, and then 2 minutes for closing remarks. We will separate into 3 different groups: Moderator, Selectmen, and School Committee. So we will start with the moderators, and the candidates we have are Tom Murphy of 15 Meadowview Lane and Peregrine White, also known as Pepper White, at 5 Marshview Road. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So we did flip a coin, and Tom, you're going to go first with your intros.
Good evening. My name is Tom Murphy. I've been the town moderator in Ipswich for 6 years now, and I look forward to serving you again. It's been quite a pleasure. It's been quite an experience. And one thing I will say is it takes a couple of years to get up and running, and the experienced people tell me it takes you really 20 years to be really good. In the time that I've been moderator, I have made a point of attending all the meetings leading up to town meeting. They're important. Making sure that the appointments for the Finance Committee are the people that we want to serve, have a balance on those. And time to time when there are committees that come out of town meeting that the moderator appoints, that you appoint people, that I appoint people of balanced views. For example, last spring we had a committee formed to look at discharge of firearms in town, and I made a point of finding a balance of the people that went on that. It's been a lot of fun. It can be very hectic, especially in the 24 to 48 hours leading up to town meeting, when at the last minute many people, mostly town officials, are scrambling around trying to make changes. That's something you really have to be ready for. But it's a challenge. It's a lot of fun. It's stressful, but in a good way. But I will say it's very tiring. If you look at a town meeting, the only 2 people in the room that have to pay attention to everything are the moderator and the clerk. And those 2 are the most tired people at the end of the night.
I'm sure they are.
But I look forward to serving the town again.
All right, well, thank you, Tom. Pepper?
Sure. My name is Peregrine White Jr., or Pepper White. I've lived in Ipswich since 1998, and I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina. My father worked as a civilian for the Army in Durham, affiliated with Duke University there. In 1968, we moved. I was born in '57. In '68, we moved back to Washington, D.C., where he worked at another staff position as a science writer. And I kind of worked my way up the coast subsequently. Wow. Went to high school in Washington, actually during the Watergate era, which was fascinating. We had speakers come to our high school from the administration. And then I went to Johns Hopkins for college. I studied environmental engineering there. And at the end of that time, I decided that mechanical engineering would fit the energy approach that I wanted to do. Energy efficiency for environmental protection, which is kind of a mainstream idea now, but with the utility programs for energy efficiency. And then I went to Belgium for a year to the Von Karman Institute for Fluid Dynamics, a 1-year program, sort of a postgraduate program. And then, how am I on time?
Hey, you obviously have a very deep resume, and we should probably we'll get started. But so you've lived in, how long have you been in Ipswich, you said?
I've been in Ipswich for almost 19 years.
Wow.
And I learned to walk on Ardula Road in 1958. My parents were on vacation.
Oh, I see. So we have some questions for you. So we'll start with Tom. And first question is, what do you believe is the most important role of the town moderator?
I think the most important role is to be a neutral, impartial referee that keeps things moving and makes sure that everybody knows what they're voting on when they vote. Those are probably the three most important aspects of the moderator. The first and foremost is impartiality. There is a provision in the manual that we follow called Town Meeting Time that allows moderators to vote to break a tie, but I don't think that's a good rule, and as a matter of course, I never vote on anything. And that's the position I take on anything, whether it's in the meetings leading up to the town meeting, at the selectmen's meeting or the finance committee, or talking to people in coffee shops. You know, I don't take a position on anything. People ask me, what do you think about that? Where do you think the schools should be? You put the school in Rowley, I don't care. You know, it's not my call, and that's the most important thing of a town moderator, and that's so that people can trust the person who's in charge of the meeting. The second important aspect of the job is to make sure that everybody gets to speak, but at the same time keep things moving. Now, those are at odds with each other.
Oh,
as
it
you
can be
imagine.
challenging, yes,
Yeah.
I've seen.
That is, you got to let people speak their mind, but not too much. So you have to watch the repetition, you have to watch people on time limits, and you have to make your, I'll call them rulings or decisions, even-handed. And the last thing is, and this is critical, is you have to make sure, and people that go to town meeting are often, they're not skilled in it, they don't know the parliamentary rules. You have to make sure people know what they're voting on when it comes time to vote. So those are the three most important things, I think.
Well, I have seen the challenges you face, so it's quite interesting. All right, sir. So Pepper, to you, what
Sure.
do you believe is the most important role of the town moderator?
Well, Tom obviously knows in detail from years of experience. I concur with all of that. I think also an important role would be to greatly encourage inclusiveness. Now Tom referenced the school issue, and I'm vehemently involved in that process. And in one way, the town moderator, if I were blessed enough to be elected, it would be, if people don't like my action, I'd have to shut up about the school things. And I would definitely be unbiased after that. But it's okay to have opinions before you're in that role, and actions thereof. The other, at the last meeting in January, the special town meeting that was for the Pony Express and for my motion, there were 949 people at that meeting. And that was partly as a result of my efforts. I was encouraging people to come to the town meeting. I wasn't saying come and vote my way. I just figured come to the meeting, and that the truth would come out of it.
So do you feel it's important that the moderator just actively recruits to pull people in, or because of
To
your
get people to
position,
come.
or-
Well, no, to encourage full participation. Help people from around the town. People help get rides to there. This will be later about the things I do to try to improve.
Okay. I'm sorry about the watch, gentlemen. I have to keep on track on that. All right. Second question. We'll start with you, Pepper. If there is one thing that you could change about town meetings, what would it be?
I would make it more inclusive. I would, at our meeting in January, we had 2 rooms and a connection, an electronic connection between the 2. I had to leave after I spoke, so I didn't see all the details of that. But it's within existing technology. If you can have it in 2 rooms, you could have it in 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms around the town, and have the constable have deputies in each location. You know, you could have one at the YMCA at Agawam Village. You could have one out at the Doyon School, Winthrop School. Just make it easier to get to, And instead of having a maximum of 949 voters, there could be thousands if you really went for it. And then try to avoid the idea of, I heard the expression stacking the hall, to mitigate that and not stack it with the people that agree with me, but make it just easier to get to.
Well, that would certainly take some infrastructure and spending on the town's part if they were to try and do that, but okay. What is the one thing you would like to change about town meetings?
The one thing that I would change in Ipswich, if I could, is to fill in the pit that we have in front of the stage.
The band pit?
The
Yeah.
band pit. And there's a reason for that. Because the way we use, that's the biggest hall in town that we have, and it seats about 650 people. So, you know, tomorrow night it may fill over and go into another room like January. But most meetings are contained in that one room. The reason I don't like the pit, and I would fill it in if I could, is because what that does is it prevents me from being able to put all the boards and committees down on the same level as the people. And what that would do is would really make it what it really is a town meeting. In other words, the town officials are just members of the meeting. They are the selectmen. The official job for the town meeting is to prepare the warrant and issue the warrant. They then give that warrant to the constable, who posts it and then comes back and gives the return of service of the warrant to the moderator. And you notice all three of those are elected officials. Mm-hmm. So the selectmen assemble the warrant, they give it to the constable who posts it and brings it to the moderator who's elected. All the people in the room are of equal value. Now, the selectmen are probably the most well-informed people in the room, no question about that. And the school committee is the most well-informed on school issues. But no one is above anyone else. They're all equal. And unfortunately, we have this orchestra pit between the stage and the general body where most people sit. And it creates this illusion of like the officials on high. And it is not like that. It's not a tri-board meeting with an ongoing citizens query. Yeah. It's a meeting where everybody is equal. So that's the one thing I would change if I could. Just one thing on the suggestion of having town meeting in more than one place. There's a state law that says you can only do that if people can hear and participate in the meeting.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing up the infrastructure that would be required.
That's a great idea. But what it would require is wiring and having an assistant moderator in every room, and having a capability for people in every location to participate, and that's why they don't do that. Towns don't do that. We do have more than one room in one place, but the statute says if a town can have a meeting in more than one place, meaning two different addresses, but only if you can have the capability for people to participate and hear.
Thanks for the enlightenment. So now we'll get to the third question that I was trying to, so sorry about that one. So for you, what is the main reason why you would like to continue being the town moderator?
A couple reasons. The main reason is that I think that everybody has an obligation to give something back, whether it's coaching soccer teams or making cookies for the school play or serving on town boards. Everybody has some obligation to give something back to society. And we generally look to the things that best take advantage of our skills. Mm-hmm. I've been a lawyer for 30 years. I've argued and briefed in every level of the courts in Massachusetts and federal courts, except I haven't argued in the Supreme Court. And I spent a lot of time thinking about process and procedures. And at least half of law is procedural as opposed to substantive. And so the town moderator is something that sort of plays into the things that I enjoy doing. The other reason is I think it's just going to take me a few more years to get better at it. So.
Fair enough. All right. Let me just. And Pepper, what is your main reason for wanting to run for town moderator?
As follows on my answer for question 2, to put more effort into leveling the playing field. I've heard people say, oh, well, the rules are the rules for town meeting, and if you get your people there, then all's fair. For 949 people, and let's say 2/3 of them to say yes on a motion, when the other 10,000 people who are registered voters do not, for whatever reason, maybe didn't care enough, or they had other things going. I applaud Tom's introduction of the child care, and I noticed that someone is working on helping elderly people. That can balance it a little more, and I think it could be more of a, instead of everybody being sort of angry. Often I see the photos and you know, in the Chronicle or wherever, there's a lot of frowns on people's faces as if things are divisive. I mean, as many things are these days. Also, there's so many issues coming up. There's the schools, of which I'm deeply aware. There's the marijuana. There's the global warming. I know Tom is appointed to a global warming climate change committee. There are a lot of issues that are becoming pertinent to the town that I would like to be able to help moderate.
Thank you both very much. So what we're going to have is a 2-minute closing. Each of you will be able to state your position in case and convince people that you're the candidate that they would like. So we'll start with, as soon as I get this watch, Pepper, we'll start with you.
Right now?
Yep.
Okay. Which camera? Yes. I mentioned my credentials are not in the law, but they are in the laws of thermodynamics and fluid mechanics. And I had taken an engineering approach to a lot of problem solving, such as energy projects, and I've done that. My whole career has been doing that. I've also given technical presentations at conferences. One I did 30 years ago, I got two job offers from it. So I'm not a novice at speaking in public. Also, my first job in college, I ran a couple of conferences for a new program at the Department of Energy. And so I think I'm not a lawyer. Nothing wrong with being a lawyer. I mean, being a lawyer is certainly excellent preparation, but as Mr. Grimes, Jim Grimes was the moderator for many years, he was not a lawyer. And I might model myself on his approach, and again, being fair and being as inclusive as possible.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right. Well, and yeah. Oh, Lord. Me and this watch. And Tom, please.
Sure. Thank you very much, Russ. It's good to see you again, Pepper. I look forward to serving as a town moderator again. It's an important job. You know, state laws in Massachusetts regulate the way towns change their bylaws all through town meeting. So until we change the state constitution, we've got town meeting. Town meeting works in certain ways. It's been around for a long time, hundreds of years, and it's truly a venerable institution, and part and parcel of to answer your question why I want to do this is because I believe in it. I believe it's a great system of, I mean, look at Pony Express. You know, 1,000 people came together and figured out how to spend $2.5 million. Now, whether you like it or you voted for it, against it, I don't know. But I will say this. A number of people told me that they walked in planning to vote one way and they voted the other way. And both ways. Yeses became nos and nos became yeses. That's a good meeting. I will admit that I have been faulted by some of the open space people for being kind of against them in that January meeting, and there was a reason that. I mean, there was a motion to amend, if you may recall, to require that it go to a town-wide ballot, and I explained 2 or 3 good reasons why, and later I thought of a third good reason why I should not have allowed it. But you know, I had disclosed that I was a member of Greenbelt. Technically, you know, not an officer, just a dues-paying member. That, in my mind, was something that forced me to use my discretion to allow that motion anyway, even though it probably wasn't allowable. So, you know, if the open space people think I was, you know, biased against them, that's why I did it that way. And there's a lot of discretion in this job. There's a tremendous amount of discretion. There are rules to follow, but you really have to use your discretion, and the importance, as I said in the beginning, is to be impartial and to use your discretion and make your decisions in a balanced way.
I want to thank you both for coming in and giving us the time, answering the questions. And I hope that this has been fruitful for everybody that's watching.
Thank you
So
very
you
much.
have a good evening.
Thanks, Russ.
Recycling is better for our planet than disposal and adds value to our economy. However, contaminants like plastic bags, food, and tanglers like textiles and cords are creeping into recycling bins. These items jam up equipment at recycling facilities and create hazards for workers, leading to higher recycling costs. You can be a part of the solution by recycling right. To find out how, check out the South Shore Recycling Cooperative at our website. Thank you.
Welcome back to the 8th Annual ICAM Candidates Forum. And now we have the candidates for selectmen. And we have 3 candidates here. We have Linda Alexson of 19 Juniper Street. We have Erica Turner of 121 High Street. And we have William Whitmore of 3 Kingsman Court. Tonight's format, as stated previously, you'll each get a 2-minute time to do an introduction, 2 minutes to answer each one of the questions as it goes, and then a 2-minute closing statement. So we had a little selection process. William won or lost, depending on how you look at it. You get to start it off. And so we'll start with you for your introduction.
I'm William Whitmore, and I'm running for selectman because I want to help shape the future of Ipswich. I feel like I have a good skill set to allow me to provide some really solid contributions to the Board of Selectmen. I spent the last 8 years working as a federal fisheries policy analyst in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And what I primarily do is I work with competing stakeholders in a really public process where we develop fishery management plans to sustainably manage our fisheries. And so what I do, what I mean by competing stakeholders, is sitting down at a table with commercial fishermen, environmentalists, scientists, recreational fishermen, and everybody has an idea of where they want to be. And usually the end game is pretty close, but identifying where we are, how we should do things, in what order, can be pretty controversial. So we go through that process. It's very public. Everything is done in public meetings. We take public comment. So in the grand scheme of things, it's really similar to the Board of Selectmen and kind of how process works in town. So I'm really comfortable working through a public decision-making process. My educational background, I think, is really helpful too. I have a bachelor's degree in watershed management, and as most of us know, conserving water is a pretty big issue in Ipswich right now. I have a master's degree in sociology, where I spend a lot of time focusing on community resiliency, and I have a PhD in marine policy, where I targeted and focused mostly on natural resource management and public policy and administration. So I feel like kind of wrapping all these things together gives me quite a good insight on how the Board of Selectmen can work and things that we can do to make Ipswich better. I really love Ipswich. You know, there's a lot of good things going on here, and my family is here, my parents have retired here, and my kids are coming up through the school system. So I hear a lot of different perspectives and different points of view, and I feel like I have a lot to contribute.
All right, well, thank you very much. And our next candidate, Erica Turner, why don't you give us your opening statements?
Hi. I go by Erica Turner. My legal last name is Goldsboro Turner, so that's what you'll see on the ballot. So no surprises there, but I do go by Erica Turner because it's a bit long and awkward and no one can spell it. I was actually born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Ended up going to college in Ohio where I met my husband who was raised in Framingham. I graduated with an art history degree. Ended up in New Hampshire right out of college, being hired as a purchasing agent, which art history doesn't really parlay into purchasing. But at the time I worked for a decorative heating stove company in New Hampshire, and they were just starting to produce gas heating stoves. So I was given a parts list and I was pointed to the Thompson Register, which is a listing of suppliers, and a price point to meet and told to go for it. Which I did, and I was successful, and we got all of our parts and they worked, and it went well. A year after that, we moved to Boston, just various jobs in Boston in the tech industry, finance, consulting. 9/11 rolled around, was laid off, ended up, no one was hiring, and I was bouncing around trying to figure out what to do. Used a friendship with a huntsman over at Myopia to start walking out foxhounds, so I ended up delving into spending my time learning how to clean kennels and train hounds, so went from corporate to the exact opposite of corporate. After that, my husband and I decided to start a family, which we did. We have 3 daughters now who are going on 12, 10, and 7.5.
Exciting age group.
Yes, it keeps me very busy. I did again when right around just before my first one was born, I ended up managing 3 hound shows again, something where I had never done it before. I was handed files from the previous year and a little guidebook on how to do it and told, you know, good luck, and managed to pull those off pretty well. More recently, I've served in the Doyon School Council for 2 years, been busy with my kids.
I'm sorry for the interruption.
Oh, that's okay. The last thing is for the past 2.5 years, I've actually been the treasurer of the Ipswich Fish and Game Association. So gained a lot of experience there with obviously being fiscally responsible and making sure bills are paid on time and looking down the road at projects down the road and being, you know, solvent.
Alrighty. And Linda Alexson?
Thank you. I am Linda Alexson, and I'm running for a seat on the Board of Selectmen also. I've lived in town for 30 years or so. I have an associate's degree in paralegal studies, and I work as a legal administrative assistant for a nonprofit healthcare organization. I've been attending Board of Selectmen meetings on a very regular basis for a number of years because I'm interested in our local government. And I serve on their Shellfish Subcommittee since 2012, and the last 2 years as chair. My husband and both of his parents were born and raised here, and my son Bill went through the public school system from first grade at Winthrop through high school graduation, and he is a career officer in the Air Force in Alabama. My stepson Shane lives here with his family, and I have grandchildren in the Winthrop School, the middle school, and the high school.
Alrighty. Well, we have some questions, and we're going to start first with William. And the first question is, back in 2013, Article 9 was passed to spend $3 million to pave Doyon parking lot and reconstruct Line Brook Road. I think there was also talk of a sidewalk and things like that. But the Doyon parking lot was paved, but Line Brook Road has not been reconstructed. Once the article was passed at town meetings, once articles are passed at town meetings, who and how are they to be followed up, and should changes be made in this process to better hold accountability?
Yep, sure, great question. So, you know, a lot of people have been asking questions about the exact Line Brook Road issue and other town issues, and
Yeah, we have to drive over.
yeah, and well, and what's interesting is that, you know, the questions that people ask in some cases seem really basic, but it also, you know, that points out that the communication is coming out from the town, and the question, you know, the communication that's coming out from the town can be improved, because there's people that are asking questions that seem to be pretty basic and they're still not getting the information. So, where I work, we develop these implementation plans, and essentially what they are is it's a plan that basically assigns roles, responsibilities, and a timeline. And when you do that, when you assign a task and you commit somebody to it and there's a timeline there, what that does is it instills a sense of accountability. And there's a lot of people who I've talked to who have been asking about accountability. And accountability just isn't waiting until someone doesn't do something and then disciplining them in some way. Accountability comes from the beginning also. So I think the idea of setting up some type of implementation plan that is out there and open and obvious for people to see. And it also helps with communication between the different levels. So in the case of Linebrook Road, you have Public Works who sort of spearheads this. But it turns out, some of the delays that have been there in instances, it sounds like they're justified because the selectmen were doing their due diligence and trying to figure out what people wanted from the project. Like you mentioned, the sidewalks, do we want sidewalks, one side or both sides? How far down? Bike lanes, how are those going to work? So when you do that, it sounds like it took a little longer than what they were anticipating, but if we had an implementation plan that people could see, people could better understand what's going on. So that's one of the things to focus on. And then also making those plans public, right? So that people can see those, because, public policy and decisions, they're messy and they take time, and there's usually good reasons for delays. But if people know that and can see it, it makes things better.
Okay. Same question to you. I'm sure you're aware of it. It's just, it's caught people off guard that, okay, it got paved, the parking lot, no one's seeing anything happen. How do you feel things could have been or should have been different, and how would you improve that scenario?
I think, again, similar to what Will said, in that sort of an instance, I know you can have meetings, things could be brought up about projects that people want to work on, and then it does come down to accountability. So for me, once town meeting happens and articles are passed, it would be something even like a spreadsheet that would be available online, each article showing, obviously which ones are closed because they were simple, the ones that are open, and then just those constantly updated with where it is and who's taking care of it at that point. And at that point, it doesn't have to necessarily be that in-depth, but just something that's regularly brought up at the meetings. This article was passed, where are we on it? Just so that it is continually addressed.
Okay, thank you. And Linda, same question for you.
So with Linebrook Road, I had issues with the process from the very beginning. When the Board of Selectmen started talking about Linebrook Road, the discussion was about a $2 million project, and then it was arbitrarily raised to $3 million, but there were no cost estimates. There were no details about the scope of the project, and it went to town meeting without any of that information. And it passed. A year later, in 2014, the work still hadn't been done, and a citizen's petition was brought to rescind the $3 million authorization because there were no estimates, there was no details, but the petition didn't pass, and the project was still there for $3 million. Here we are 4 years later, and there's no work on the project. I think that's just inexcusable. I think the process needs to be a formal process. I don't know if the town already has a formal process in place when it's decided that we're going to spend X amount of money on a project. Where does it go from there? I would like to see, before it goes to town meeting for approval, that there's a bid process in place. We have estimates to determine what kind of money we're looking for, and a general timeline of milestones and anticipated project completion date. I don't think there was any of that with this particular project. And then once the voter approval has been received, then you would contract with the bidder. You'd have a timeline of milestones and a real completion date that you would expect. And then I would hope that there would be scheduled updates between the department head and the town manager. And then the town manager would keep the Board of Selectmen apprised accordingly, because I think it's not good when you have residents contacting the town hall saying, what happened?
All right. That was, yes, it has been an interesting viewing of that whole project. So, Erica, second question, we'll start with you. And what is your stance on building a new elementary school? And how should the select board be part of the decision-making process?
So my stance on the new elementary school, it's a difficult decision. If I had all the money in the world, there would be 2 new elementary schools. But of course, that takes quite a bit of funding. And I don't think the town is in a position to go there. As it is, I do think the one new school with the reimbursement from the state of, the up to 47% is fiscally a good way to go. Looking at their 3 sites, obviously Winthrop's off. I favor the Doyon site. I feel like it does need to be reviewed because it was pulled before there was some analysis, but not full analysis. But I do think it would be the ideal site given our parameters. The second part of that question, in terms of the process between the selectmen and the school committee, their involvement. The school committee, they run the schools. They, know what's best in terms of education and what is needed for students currently, and looking into the future. I think the way it stands now is good in that obviously the Board of Selectmen will bring forth the town's concerns and hopefully the concerns of the voters in terms of taxes and things like that. So the process as it stands where, they vote, they recommend, and keeping it as is.
And Lynn, to you, again, I was poorly worded. So what is your stance on building a new elementary school, and how should the select board be part of that decision-making process?
Well, I think combining the 2 elementary schools is a major step for Ipswich, but I think it's a good one. I think that we will realize a lot of efficiencies and benefits by having one school. And I think that having all of our elementary school students in a new state-of-the-art building would be much better for them, as opposed to rebuilding one school now and then another one several years down the road. I do favor the Doyon location. I have since the beginning of the process. I think it's a great location for a school, and if there are utility issues that need to be addressed, I think those can be pretty easily remedied. I feel that the Board of Selectmen need to work in conjunction with the school committee and the finance committee on this project, because I feel the issue runs deeper than just the location of the school. I think we're looking at the best possible uses for our 3 town-owned parcels of land with 3 major needs that we need to reconcile. So I think all 3 of these leadership boards need to work together to match those needs with the pieces of land that we own.
All right. And to you?
Yeah, sure. So it's been a pretty divisive topic in town, building the school and where to put it. I think what we all need to do is take a step back and really focus on what the end result is that we want, and that is a new school. The 2 schools that we have are outdated and they're overcrowded. And we have this great opportunity now with a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority to save at least $20 million on a new school. So that's an opportunity that we can't pass up. And this is something that I think we're all in agreement that this isn't a want, this is a need. This is something that our town has to do. But that being said, it's been really controversial as far as where the school location should go. Now, on tomorrow night, we have town meeting, and there's going to be a discussion about where the school should be located. And I hope that we get a lot out of it as far as preferences for where the location should be. And what I hope to see is if we get something out of it that the Board of Selectmen and the School Building Committee and the School Committee are willing, and the Finance Committee are willing to start working with that, because what we need to do is focus on the location that has the most support from the public, because we need to ensure that when all is said and done, when it comes to the polls in the fall, it's a town meeting in the fall, and the vote in the fall, that we have enough votes to actually get this project approved. So I think that we need to listen to the public and go with what the majority say. And I think that the Board of Selectmen, the best thing that they can do is work on that and work closely and collaboratively with the School Building Committee, the School Committee, and the Finance Committee to make sure that this gets done.
We'll start with you on the third question. What is your main reason for running for selectman, and what is your main goal if you do become selectman?
Okay, well, I'm running because I'm interested in local government. I've been attending the meetings for years, and I think I'm pretty informed on most of the issues, maybe not all of them, but I have a pretty good understanding of the issues that we're facing. And I'm eager to participate in the decisions that we make about our town's future. So I have a couple of main goals. One of the most important things to me is to make sure that our tax dollars are spent wisely. I want to see due diligence performed before we present and promote projects to the town for approval. I think that's just back to Linebrook Road for a minute. I want to see that we get the very best services and products for the best price. And one of the things that I've been learning about is, that I know, is that a lot of people are finding it more and more difficult to stay here. And it's an affordability issue, and I think that especially we need to be confident that our money is being spent properly and responsibly, and that we minimize tax increases at the same time continuing to provide excellent services here in town. The other thing that I'd like to see is more cooperation and collaboration with the leadership boards, with the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the School Committee.
All right. And
Sure.
yes, well, I'm sorry. So, and your main reason for running for selectman, and what would be your main goal should you become a selectman?
Yep. So my main reason, as I mentioned, is that I want to be involved in how Ipswich. I want to be involved in how Ipswich evolves, and I've met with a lot of folks. I've had a lot of good conversations, and I think all of us have different concerns, and we have a lot of kind of hot button issues in the town, in our community right now, be it the Brunies project, be it parking and downtown businesses, or the new school, a public safety building, water conservation. And the challenge is that all of these things cost money. And as Linda mentioned, we have a lot of people who are starting to get stretched pretty thin. And one of the challenges that we have is, after talking with folks, we have no plan. We have no strategic plan. We have no vision. There's nothing out there where we prioritize what we need and what we want. There's no goals or objectives. So it's very difficult to try to figure out how we should move our town forward when we don't have a plan. So one of the primary things that I want to work on is developing a strategic plan and really thinking long-term for our community, so that we can do the things that Linda suggests, where we can make the right decisions in a cost-effective way, where we can find out what benefits the most, and so that we can spend our money efficiently. So that's a key issue that I want to work on, and a key objective. Another one is, again, the collaboration between the boards can be improved, and I'd like to work on that. And the third one is communication coming out from the town. Just there could be some simple things, just as a communications plan for our town that explains how we will communicate things. We don't have much social media presence, so I think that's something that we could work on as well. So I think just basically setting up a long-term plan and working on communicating that out would be my primary focus.
All right. And Erica, same question to you. Your main reason for running for selectman, and what would be your main goal should you become selectman?
My main reason, I guess the topical main reason is, I love Ipswich. I live here. My family loves Ipswich. I want to see it succeed into the future. On a kind of bigger scale, just wanting to get involved politically because our country obviously has gone through a lot of turmoil recently with the elections and everything. A lot of people wanting change. It's not necessarily clear how all of this is going to play out. As with most things, the best way to bring about change is to start from the bottom up. And absolutely, town government is starting at the bottom, and you work your way up. And the most important thing I'd like to do if I become elected is one of the things I feel has happened in the country everywhere is people are getting pushed to the edges. It's the right or the left, the liberal, conservative. Everything's to the extreme. And part of the problem is the media, definitely sort of does headlines that push it. Social media doesn't help. You look at comments on different websites, and certainly the sparring that goes on is probably sparring that wouldn't necessarily happen in the same way if people were sitting down talking face to face. You'd have much more in-depth conversations and true arguments versus sort of just pinging back and forth.
You wouldn't have those snark attacks.
No snark attacks. So one of the things I'd love to see is just that bringing people to the table. One of the things I don't like to see on either side, and with many different discussions or issues that come up, are people who say, well, I feel like I don't have to talk to a person who doesn't agree with me, or I shouldn't have to talk to someone who feels that way. And I feel, that's one of the biggest problems we're facing. So I guess ultimately, my biggest desire in getting involved has to do more with fighting against that, bringing more people to the table, insisting that people, yes, it's going to be awkward, it's going to be uncomfortable, we're not used to doing it anymore, but getting people to sit down and actually discuss and listen and try to bring people to consensus. So.
Alrighty. All right. Well, each of you, I want to thank you for coming in. We're going to have closing remarks, and we're going to start with Linda. And I let the people know why we'd want to have you as our selectman.
Okay. Well, my family and I have very deep roots here in Ipswich, and I have a genuine interest in local issues and making the best possible decisions for our future. I look forward to the opportunity to serve on the Board of Selectmen, and if I'm elected, I will work enthusiastically and diligently to make those good decisions. Thank you.
All right. William?
Oh, sure. So I just wanted to start with thanking the people who have taken the time to talk with me. It's been a great experience. I don't know about you guys, but I had no clue what it was like to really kind of come in and run an election, run a campaign through an election, and it's been.
Honestly, it sounds like a scary process.
It is in the beginning. It's completely intimidating. Sticking a sign with your name on it in people's yards and holding one in town while everyone drives by is totally intimidating. And then as you do it, you start getting positive feedback. You start seeing people encouraging you, and it has been just extremely rewarding and actually really enjoyable. And it's so nice to go through it and to meet people and to see the commitment that a lot of people have to our community and the sharpness and the dedication that a lot of people have. And it's been great to listen. And I want to tell people that I will continue to listen, and that people can reach out to me if they have questions or comments. And I want to work with that and with people's input. And I want to actively engage if I get on the Board of Selectmen, to really be involved and to help lead. And I think in many instances, our community has struggled in some cases with leadership. And I'm ready, and I've heard a lot of input, and I see and understand different points of view, and I'm ready to get involved.
All righty. And Erica, just so we get your full name, because I know it's different. It's not Erica Turner on the ballot. It's
Right. It should be, my last name is Goldsboro Turner, so it should be Erica. I don't know if they'll include my middle name, Lynn, but Erica Goldsboro Turner.
all right. And I just wanted to get that out, make sure that got out there, because I'm a little cavalier with names. But please.
I just wanted to say I have really enjoyed the process. I think my favorite event was being at the Masonic Temple for a meet and greet, just because got to meet a lot of people, got to ask them what their views on, got to have that chance to talk and go back and forth with ideas and how people feel about the community and how we're doing, and their opinions on problems in the community. Why vote for me? I'd work really hard if I was on the board, and I think I can bring some pretty varied experience to it. So.
All right. Well, I just want to thank all three of you for coming in and giving us the time to talk and discuss, and we wish you all the very best. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's Carrie Bates and I'm with the Recreation and Culture Department. I'm here on Market Street with some of my friends, local business owners, bankers, Chamber of Commerce members, people who regular the Business Roundtable. And we are here in celebration of a campaign that we're launching called Shop Local, Shop Ipswich. Behind us you can see a series of banners which have been put up in collaboration with the Economic Development Office, painted by Barbara DiLorenzo. They celebrate the local culture of so many of our wonderful local businesses. Shop local, shop Ipswich.
Welcome back to the 8th Annual ICAM Candidates Forum. This section here, we're going to be dedicated to the school committee. And with us, we have three wonderful people that are wanting to run for our school committee. Barry Hopking of 10 High Street, Pavika Needler, I am so sorry, 'cause your husband was a Cub Scouts leader on 2 Cortland Way, and Nicole Zito of 21 Kimball Ave. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an intro, and then we'll be answering questions, and then 2 minutes for any closing remarks. And as we know, you drew the short straw, so you get to start. So please.
So my name is Pavita Needler. Most people call me Pav. And I'm running for school committee. I live in Ipswich here now for 12 years with my husband David and our 2 sons Alec and Evan, who are now a senior and a freshman, unbelievably to me. My educational background is I have a BA from Connecticut College, I have a degree in nursing from North Shore Community College, and I went on to do graduate work at University of Philadelphia to become a certified nurse midwife. And I've been working in maternal newborn nursing on the North Shore now for 22 years, and I continue to do that. My interest in education started at home. My parents are both teachers. My aunt is also a teacher, although my parents were college professors and my aunt taught elementary, so we run the full gamut in my family. And I was a product of the public schools in the town that I grew up in. I felt like it gave me a good foundation for my education, and I was able to go on and complete what I wanted to in life as far as my education furthering it. When we were looking around for a town to really settle down in, one of the things which drew us to Ipswich was the schools. We also love, obviously, the natural beauty, and we found a real sense of community here. But the reputation of the schools was a big draw for us. And our kids have really benefited from that. And I really love that Ipswich looks at the whole student, an academic, an athlete, and an artist, and kind of addresses all of that in a child. So I'm running for school committee because I love Ipswich, I love living here, and I'd like the opportunity to give back a little bit of what we've gotten from the schools for our children and to help pass that along to the next generation.
All right, thank you. And let me get, all right, Nicole.
Thank you. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to represent you on school committee. My name is Nicole Zito, and I am currently a classroom English middle school teacher at St. John's Prep in Danvers. I am also a 7th and 8th grade team leader and the English department coordinator in the middle school. I've been a teacher for grades 6 through 12 for 16 years, and I've also served as a teaching fellow at Boston College, where I taught undergraduate and graduate courses at the Lynch School of Education. In terms of my own educational background, I have a BA in Latin from Haverford College. I have a degree in literature, English literature from Middlebury's Breadloaf School of English, and I have a PhD in K through 12 school administration. I've lived in Ipswich for the past 4 years, and my husband Rich and I have 2 young children, Max and Mia, and I would like to serve on this committee in order to develop the schools that I would be proud to send my children and your children.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hopping?
Thank you, Russ. And also thank you to ICAM for the opportunity to talk education. Even though there is no race per se, because there are 3 candidates for 3 slots, it's always good to come together and share thoughts and ideas about why we do what we do. So, my name is Barry Hopping. I am a townie. I've born and raised in Ipswich, proud product of the Ipswich Public Schools. My career in education began in Ipswich as a 7th grade ELA teacher at the old middle school. I later became the athletic director for the town, for the school system, and then an administrator, where I served as principal of the middle school for 2 years. I then moved on to Hanscom Air Force Base down in Bedford, where I was principal of the middle school there for 12 years. And then most recently, I was the principal of the middle school in Newburyport, the Knock Middle School, for 6 years. I retired from that position 4 years ago actually, and I've been teaching at Merrimack College in the education department, where I work with aspiring educators in the fellowship program. I'm a supervisor. I go out in the field and work with student teachers. I was in North Andover and Newburyport today, wrapping up some of my work with two students. I am married and have a son who currently attends Ipswich High School. He's a freshman, and I am hoping to be reelected to my 7th term. Wow. I'm finishing up 18 years, and I can truthfully say I have not lost a spark. Any time that we can devote time and energy and attention to education and doing what's best for our students and for our educators, it is time well spent. So I'm looking forward to the next 3 years. The work still needs to be done. There's a lot that in the immediate on the radar screen that we have to address, and I'm up for the challenge, so thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll start with the opening questions with you. And what is your position on the new elementary school being built at the current Winthrop site?
So our town needs a new elementary school. The Winthrop site and a single school are not my personal first choices, but I don't think that there is an option available in terms of site and size that is going to please everyone. And I think that the Winthrop site is a site that I initially supported, but I think that we should find out and wait and see what folks say during town meeting tomorrow and hear what the town mandate is for the site of the new school building. I had thought before the recent tri-board meeting that the Winthrop site would be the great compromise, that this was a school that was centrally located, that was not bi-elec, that people might not have thought was their first choice, but that was palatable enough. And it just doesn't seem like there's enough will in the town to work through some of the challenges with traffic and on-site parking, and that those issues appear to be insurmountable. I realize that it's very costly to switch sites, so I would like to be sure that we do our due diligence, that this is truly not the site that we're going to pursue, because obviously we need to get it right. At a certain point, we also have to make a decision, and this school project is one of the primary reasons that I'm running for school committee, and I will work tirelessly to make sure that our community gets the school that we deserve.
All right, thank you. Let me get this timer right. And to you, sir, what is your position on the new elementary school being built at the Winthrop site?
Well, I echo much of what Nicole just said. I don't think it's been any mystery to people that I have favored an in-town site since the project came online. School committee has made it clear that our preferred site was Bialik Park from the get-go. When that no longer was an option, we chose Winthrop with all the challenges, the inherent challenges that came along with it. I feel that there are no challenges that have arisen that are not insurmountable. This town has shown historically that when a challenge faces us all, people step up, they work collaboratively, and they get it done. I'm hoping that we see more of the same going forward. I think there is consensus, which I take great comfort in, that I think people are, for the most part, convinced that we do need a new elementary school. It's what our children and our educators deserve, and I think we have to make every effort to bring that to fruition. It's one of the reasons why I chose to run again. As I said earlier in my opening comment, there's work that still needs to be done, and right in the forefront of that is a new elementary school. I am looking forward to tomorrow night's discussion at town meeting, because I think it's an invaluable opportunity for townspeople to have their say. Although the articles that we'll be addressing and discussing are non-binding, I think it is going to provide some excellent direction in terms of how this project should go forward. We can ill afford to walk away from 45% reimbursement from the state on this project. These are opportunities that don't come along very often, and I think we have to take full advantage of that. And the best way to do that is to do it with a true collective town effort, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, fortunately, I haven't heard a lot of people not wanting to do it. It's been the location that's been the big issue, and within plethora of issues. And to you, what is your position on it being at the Winthrop site?
Much of what I already believe has been said by Mary and Nicole, but so basically my feeling also is the most important thing is that it gets built. I mean, I think everybody agrees we need a new school. I certainly hope everybody does. And it'll be really good to bring it to town meeting tomorrow and hopefully finally get a consensus. Because I think we all thought that it was going to happen at Winthrop, and then it sort of seems to have almost come up out of nowhere, that suddenly there was this roiling of, no. And I know many people have put a lot of time and effort into getting this going, and I'd like to see it carried through to the end so that our kids can have a new school, and I'd like to be part of that effort.
And so you do feel that Winthrop could be a viable site?
If we can get the town behind it, yes. My fear is just that I don't want to go forward with something and then have it voted down in the fall and lose the funding. That would just be devastating.
That would be bad. All right. Second question. This one will go to you, Barry. The numbers show that significant percentage of 8th graders are choosing to attend alternate high schools such as Essex, Aggie, Whittier Tech, and private schools. What can be done to encourage families and students to choose Ipswich High over these other schools? Or do you feel that it's not necessary to try and pull those students' interests back?
First, I want to preface my comments by saying that I fully support a parent's right to decide what they feel is best for their own child. I think the question itself is there are two pieces to it. Our students that attend Whittier or Essex Tech, we belong to those districts. And those schools are designed and they are offered for specific types of needs and interests for our students. And I fully support that. our issue a few years ago is that, and we raised it at town meeting, was that seemed each year we were disappointed the number of students that would apply to these schools that wouldn't get in. So we raised the concern, and I can say now and pleasantly surprised the number of students that are being accepted since that town meeting that we questioned it. Private school is another decision that parents have to make in the best interest of their child. Private school is something that there are some things that we can't compete with. For example, if there's a history of private school in a family. I know from my own experience working in Newburyport as a middle school principal, I was writing countless recommendations for private school applications for students. And several would say, my dad went there, my mother went there, my uncle went there. That's tough to compete with because there's a history of success. I think there is a sort of a perception out there that private school attendees, there's a higher percentage of students that get into prestigious universities and colleges. I'm pleased with what Ipswich High School has been able to do in placing our students, our seniors, in four-year schools. And the numbers right now as they stand is that there are 28 students from Ipswich currently enrolled at Whittier. There are 8 at Essex Tech. We also had this year, 20 applied to Whittier, 18 have been accepted. As of right now, 12 will be attending. They've made commitments. Mm-hmm. At Essex, 8 have applied, 2 have accepted, 2 will be attending. My bigger concern, and I think it's the concern of the community, and we've raised this in the past, is that we need to look at the funding formula. We, as a district, ascending district, Ipswich pays approximately $17,000, $17,500 for each student that attends Whittier, and roughly the same amount for each student that attends Essex Tech. Now that's a formula and a rate that's set by the Department of Education. Ipswich pays $15,500 roughly for their per pupil cost. So there's a disconnect there slightly. We're paying for transportation to send our students to Essex Tech. We're paying, for example, for the capital projects at Whittier. Ipswich is one of 9 communities that send students to Whittier. So that's my bigger concern at this point. I am thrilled that we have options for our students. I really am. And as I said, I think it's a parent's right to decide what's best for their own child. So the last part of that question was, do I see it as it's necessary that we should take it on? I don't. I think there are pieces of it we need to take on, but the fact that they are looking to attend elsewhere is not a major concern of mine.
Okay. So I came at this from a little bit of a research thing because I was curious to see what the surrounding towns were seeing. And I went to the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education website, and I got data on Georgetown, Triton, Masconomet, Hamilton Wenham, Manchester, and Rockport, and compared it with Ipswich over the school years 2010 through 11, and then up to 2015-16. And I made a little graph. And what I found is basically we're all in the same boat. So these are the different schools: Georgetown, Hamilton, Ipswich. And other than Hamilton Wenham, which has this spike up here, although they're now losing students as well, we all look pretty much the same. So everybody seems to be losing students between 8th and 9th grades. I looked at this big spike down here where we lost 18%, and that was a class size of 191 students. So when they did lose a significant number, but that brought them to a class of 153 going into 9th grade, which is not a crazy size. And similarly, I did look at the same thing, looking at how many students were losing to Whittier and Essex. And for instance, in 2014-15, we lost 25 students, but 21 of them went to Whittier or Essex. I mean, that's, I think, perfectly acceptable. Those are valid educational opportunities for things that we don't have in Ipswich. So I don't really see a problem.
Okay. And, excuse me, I'm sorry, Nicole, to you.
Sure. So I believe that we should focus on our solid academic programming and our solid extracurricular programming and our strengths, because I think that in doing that and students having a positive experience in our schools, that student retention will become less of an issue in the district. I think to do that, we need to highlight and protect the programming that we do have. I think one of our hallmarks is our fine arts department. Recently, I attended the send-off strings concert to Carnegie Hall, and this past weekend, Pav and I attended Into the Woods, and I think the fine arts department is one of our strengths, and we should do all that we can to protect departments like the fine arts department. I also think that one of the things that private schools cannot compete with is, and I work at a private school, is this notion of being part of a town school community. And there's a lot to be said for that. And I think to highlight some of those positives, the connections, the parent community, having students being part of a community in town, I think that's what private school students do miss out on. And finally, Barry, I know you're a proponent of this. I've heard you say this, but to protect our small class size. And I think that when we do that, that it's not in doing a cost analysis that families will have less of a reason to be attracted to private schools in the future. One thing that I do know that private schools do, and I have a colleague who worked at Essex and Whittier Tech, is that they market to families, and they market very early to families, and they do a very good job with that. And I think in order to counter that kind of marketing, what we can do as a community are some of the things that private schools do. They have a day of open classrooms. They send families lots of communications about the outstanding programs that they offer, and that people in the community, students, hear about and are excited about the programming that is yet to come. And I think if we do that, if students look forward to the programming that they're going to receive in the high school, that then they will not look elsewhere for their educational experience.
All righty. Thank you very much for that. Let's see, who took the first question? You. All right. So I guess, so yeah, it's hard for me to keep track of these. All right, so Pav, what is the main reason for running for school committee, and what is your main goal?
My main reason for running for school committee is I have a passion for education and a real love for the town of Ipswich. As I mentioned earlier, my older son, Alec, is a senior this year. And so we've been going through the college application process. And in applying to colleges and the acceptances coming in, thank goodness, I've seen, it's a really good education that we're providing our kids. He got into some very good schools. And he got, and I'm seeing his friends getting into good schools. A friend of his just got a full scholarship to Northeastern. I mean, this is a good education system, and I'm proud of it, and I'd like to be part of helping to maintain that for the kids coming up behind Alec and Evan, so that they can benefit from that too.
Okay.
And my main goal is to get the elementary school built.
All righty. Nicole?
Sure. My main reason for running for school committee is to give back to the community that has already given my family so very much. In light of the national landscape, it is so disheartening to see
Is there something strange going on in this country?
Yeah, I would say that what is so disheartening for me to see is some of the programming that is being just taken apart in terms of education, in terms of the environment, in terms of immigration. And I think the way to counter that national angst is to dig in and to become civically engaged and involved. And so I look forward to doing that, and I think that one should become involved in what one is passionate about and what one has expertise about, and for me that's education. My main goal is to work on the unity of the tri-boards, to maintain fiscal responsibility, to maintain the integrity and communication with the community and with the other boards. And like Pav said, I think the biggest project for us to execute is the school building project.
Keeping peace among the tri-board, that's a big goal. And Barry, I know, thank you for being on this for so many years. And what is your main goal for this next?
I know that public service has basically been what's driving me since my first term. I, like Nicole and Pav have said, I can't do enough of this community. I think we should encourage from the very youngest of our residents, citizens on, that ways to step up and help out, whether it be through volunteerism and coaching or whatever. There's all sorts of opportunities, and I think that I'd like to lead by example. I have thoroughly enjoyed my previous years serving on the committee. I've worked with some terrific people, and I look forward. We've got some major challenges. Obviously the building project is the one that looms large for everyone, but we're also going to be welcoming a new superintendent in the next few weeks. And I want to be part of helping to design and define what we're going to look like as a school district for the next 5, 10, 15 years going forward. I am looking forward with eager anticipation to working with Nicole and Pav. It's always good to have fresh ideas, new faces into the mix. I also think that with the recent override, the success of the recent override, and I say that it was 3 years ago, but we need to work harder to try to reach financial stability going forward, out of fairness to the taxpayers. They've been terrific in supporting the schools historically, and we need to keep them in mind going forward with no matter what we do, whatever the initiative is. We're working right now very hard to extend the life of the override through a stabilization fund that we've created. We'll be contributing more funds to that tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. And I am going to continue to ask the tough questions. I believe, I'm a firm believer in accountability. I want us to be able to justify and defend the expenditure of every dollar that we have. I believe in transparency and openness. I welcome dialogue. So all of the things that motivated me to run the first term, they're still there. And again, I don't think my work is done yet.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. We'll have some closing remarks, and I know that no one's running against you, but it's good to speak to the people of the town. So please, Nicole, you can start.
Sure. So though it is an uncontested election, I appreciate this opportunity. So thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce myself to the community. I'm really looking forward to working with you, Pav, and Barry, your leadership and your experience on the school board. I am really excited about the opportunity to learn from you and to work alongside the other school committee members. I will work tirelessly. I'm enthusiastic about the opportunities and challenges. I agree with you, Barry, that that challenge includes fiscal responsibility and making sure that we live up to the responsibility that we have as the school committee to spend money wisely and to really get out of this cycle of these ongoing overrides through the stabilization fund. It is with great energy, pride, and humility that I look forward to serving in this capacity.
Okay. Hard to believe we have kids that are going to be seniors and juniors and graduating. It's amazing. I remember when they were Cub Scouts. It was crazy. Want to thank you all for being here.
We get a closing comment?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I concur. That was great. I mean, it's, absolutely. It's hard for me to believe my son's a freshman this year. So, I first want to thank the community at large. Whether you support my candidacy for re-election or not, I want to thank you for your continued support of the schools and of our children and of our educators. You have been consistent in your willingness to step forward and give us the resources that we need to make it work in our classrooms. So I can't thank you enough for that. You have my word that I will continue to work hard. I will continue to do my homework. I will continue to be very involved. I take a great deal of pride in the things that I've been able to accomplish over the 18 years that I've been doing this. I am currently chair of the policy subcommittee for the school committee. We wrote the FEFI's policy by which the expenditures are governed, which has been a godsend for the schools. We also wrote the recent the policy for the turf field, the new turf field, which again the community and Institution for Savings stepped up and made that project happen. There's so many things that are involved in being a member of the school committee. I oftentimes speak of my frustration that so little of what we talk about at meetings has to do directly with education, but I want people to understand that there are so many aspects to this job, and even though you may not agree with my position on the elementary school, and that's fine, I respect that, but I would ask that you take my whole body of work over the past 18 years into consideration and continue to support me, continue to support the school committee, and most importantly, continue to support our schools, not only in the short term, but for years to come. And I look forward to serving you once again. Thank you.
And Pav, closing.
So I echo what Nicole and Barry have talked about. I mean, we're so blessed to live in a community which supports our schools the way they do. We do need to be aware of the fiscal responsibility that goes along with that. I feel very grateful to have this opportunity to serve. I don't have a work education background, but I'm very passionate about it, and I'm really looking forward to learning about it. I'm a hard worker, and I'm eager to get started and get in there and help in any way that I can. Every time I'm out and around town, I just feel so lucky to live here. Whether it's at a football game on a cold fall night, or at the PAC last weekend going into the woods, or curriculum night, meeting my kids' teachers and learning about what they're going to be doing this year. I feel really lucky to be a part of this community, and I'm looking forward to getting a chance to serve and give a little bit back. Thank you.
We have, it's quite a variety. Young kids, older kids. It's happened so fast, just you'll be amazed. But I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for viewing and watching the Candidates Forum. Please don't forget the town meeting, and don't forget May 16th for coming up and voting. So thank you again, and have a good evening.